Well, it's a great pleasure. What better way to start off a hockey week, folks? Aaron Murphy here with Todd Kelman, the managing director of the Cardiff Devils, and the brand new head coach of the Cardiff Devils, Jared Skalde. And I mean, in a time where a lot of the news hasn't been great, this is great news. So I just wanted to start off with you, Coach. First of all, welcome to, I guess, the first of many interviews here in the Elite Ice Hockey League realm as the new head coach of the Cardiff Devils.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. I'm excited. Obviously there's not been a lot of news out there that's come positive around the hockey world. So it's a pleasure to be joining the team and to talk some hockey for sure.
I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised, or maybe not surprised at all, about sort of the fan interaction and the passion for hockey on this side. We'll touch on your career in a little while. I know you've played on this side of the pond in Sweden and that sort of stuff. So we'll touch on that. But first off, I wanted to ask you about, I mean, this is the new world, isn't it? I hope, first off, that your family is safe and well and all that in these COVID times. And where are you spending your time right now?
I'm in Fort Erie, Ontario. I've crossed the border into Canada to quarantine and to kind of get settled here in Canada until we find out when there's going to be some hockey to be played. So a lot of family and friends in this area, and there's opportunities with the rinks opening up for a lot of minor pro guys and junior players that are looking to do something. So we're going to get involved with some skill sessions and some practices and stuff. So it's a great area to be in right now during these times as things are opening up a little bit more here, and a good opportunity to get on the ice.
So safe and well and trying to get back on the ice. That's what we all want to hear as hockey people. But I wanted to ask you, because this is the new world, isn't it? Zoom calls and video conference calls and all that. So you've been a coach in the American Hockey League. You've played in the National Hockey League. But have you ever had to go through a job search like this when you're doing the Zoom call? So was it an extensive search? I mean, what did Todd Kelman and the Cardiff Devils put you through to get to this point?
Well, like I told Todd, it was the most extensive, detailed process I've ever gone through in any interviews, and that's with National Hockey League teams, American League teams, East Coast League. But I told Todd and the ownership group it was very enjoyable. It really was. You know, the initial contact with Todd and getting the chance to get to know him, and then presenting some video, which gave me a great opportunity to see some games in the league, you know, breaking down some Nottingham games and seeing Belfast play. It was a great opportunity to kind of get an idea of the league and the style of play. And then, of course, meeting with the ownership group was quite enjoyable also. So it was extensive. And I know speaking with Todd after the fact was that we had time. You know, there was time to go through this whole thing. But at the end of the day, it was really enjoyable, and I was excited to get on these calls and get more information and get to meet some new people, and it was a great process.
Well, I mean, that doesn't surprise me knowing Todd, and certainly knowing the way the Devils ownership, they want trophies. They want to be one of those marquee franchise. Well, touch on that a little bit, Todd. I mean, what kind of process did you set out, and you knew that whoever was left standing at the end of that must be the right man for the job?
Yeah, I mean, when I emailed Jared about the final call, I just said, I promise you, this is the last one. I promise you. I might have said that 3 or 4 times actually, but yeah, it was. I mean, we set out from the start, and we said we kind of had an idea of what we wanted, but we also we wanted to be thorough, and I think we were quite thorough. You know, and when I say we, it's actually interesting the way we did it actually, because we're doing it by Zoom. I had Andrew Lord, obviously former coach, and Neil Francis on all the interviews with me. So they did. So it was me face to face with the candidates, and then Lorda was there, and Franny, and they were just taking notes. And basically, I drove the conversation. And the reason why we did that is because it actually makes sense to have a couple sets of eyes and a couple people taking notes, because you don't remember. I mean, we talked to 15 people initially. Probably 12 or 15, I can't even remember, maybe more. And you kind of get lost in taking notes, because I'm trying to make sure that the person feels comfortable. And luckily, they would, at the end, we'd always review it. And it was interesting because you could be like, do you remember he said this about this? And Franny might have different notes, and Lordo had different things. But and then we did a video presentation, which I think was really good, because I think that's so important. And maybe a lot of teams don't do that when they're interviewing coaches, but I thought that was a really good way of seeing what kind of coach we had. And the way Jared presented, I mean, he was, I mean, it was a standout. The video presentation was fantastic. And it was good to see, because you can imagine at this level, the coaches cutting the video. He doesn't have a team. He doesn't have a video coach and 2 assistants to work with. So he's cutting the video himself. He's breaking it down. And the way Jared presented it to us, it was like we were the team and he was preparing us for the game. So what we did is we sent them all different teams. So I can't remember who you broke. Did you break down Belfast?
Nottingham.
Nottingham. Okay. So you broke down Nottingham. A couple other candidates did, Guildford, Sheffield, Belfast. And we just said, basically present it how you want to present it. And it was cool to see. It was actually a lot of fun. That was the fun part. And then I think, Jared, probably my favorite moment was when I asked you for your best friend's phone number. Not involved in hockey. I think you were a little shocked by that when I said, I just want your buddy's phone number, a guy that's not involved in hockey that I can talk to about you. I think he was more shocked than anyone to get the phone call, but it was good. It was interesting.
He absolutely loved it. He still talks about it. I've been on the phone with him a few times since we've gotten back in this area. And it's, of course, now he got me the job, so now I owe him. So that's the only problem with that call is I'm going to hear that for a long time that he got me the job. So, but yeah, I thought that was very interesting. I'm like, you want to talk to him? Okay. What's he going to say? Like,
Well, that could go one of 2 ways, right? It could be very good depending on how far you go back and what sort of mischief you got up as younger men. Head coach Jared Skalde of the Cardiff Devils. It has a nice ring to it, and I'm sure it's sunk in a little bit now. But I want to touch on, what did you know about the Elite Ice Hockey League when you kind of started this process? About the players, sort of the level of play and all that?
I just know the league has gotten better and better in the quality of play, the quality of players, the development piece of just knowing the type of player that's going over there now. And it's a competitive league. And I think with the Champions League has really helped out the league, the success that teams have had. And it really attracted me. And then, of course, finding out more about Cardiff, both Todd and the ownership group, and it became very apparent that this is a job that a lot of coaches, as Todd can attest to, wanted, because so many factors. The league's getting better. The league is very competitive. And this group that's in Cardiff, from Todd and the owners and the passionate fans that support this team and knowledgeable, it's a very attractive place to coach. And I'm excited to get this opportunity to be part of it, to be part of the Devils family, which they've said a few times since we've had some conversations. So like I said, the process was good. It was a really great process. It was really impressive how we ran through all this. And then since getting the job and getting to know the ownership group and Todd a lot better, I mean, it just feels like it's a right fit. It's a great fit for my family. My wife is equally excited to come to Cardiff and experience something new like this. So we can't wait to get started. It's a little, I guess, frustrating is the one thing, because you really want to enjoy this moment, and I do truly appreciate this opportunity, but it's like, now when do we start? It's just, this waiting game is a little frustrating for everybody involved in hockey, but once we do get started, I can't wait to get over there and get started with building this team and adding some pieces, obviously, and hopefully some guys returning, and see how all this plays out once we have that opportunity.
Well, now that your best friend has got you the job with that ridiculously great phone call with Todd Kelman, you touched on it there about adding pieces and maybe looking forward to the 21-22 season. Strange times, as we touched on off the top. I mean, how do you work to prepare for a season that's that so far in advance? And is it an advantage that you have this much time? I mean, you'll have the most time to ever get ready for an EIHL season than any other coach that has ever had in the EIHL. So is it an advantage, or is it kind of keeping things moving slow and not get too far ahead of yourself?
I think it's a combination of different things, because obviously there's a lot going on out there with players and leagues starting up. And if the leagues are going to continue to play, I think that there's a lot of things that are going to require some patience. I think, I'll be having more conversations with Todd, just more on the hockey side of things, on, where we're at. But I think there's a great opportunity. There's going to be a lot of players available. It's a whole new world, like you said, Aaron, out there, even from a financial standpoint of, what players are willing to take and what teams are willing to pay, and what players, I think it's going to be a whole new world out there of what's going to be available to all the different leagues. And I think it's going to be very beneficial to our team to take our time, but also move on the right guys, because I do believe there will be some very good quality players available, some good people that'll fit in nicely with our team.
Well, and Todd, touch on that a little bit as well as the managing director. I mean, it's been a long time since I was in Cardiff for that Challenge Cup showdown. It seems like it's a long way off for the start of our new season, and fingers crossed that we get there and we're all ready to get going. But just touch on that from the Devils' perspective. I mean, what do you do now? You've got your coach in situ. How do you progress forward towards that new season on the horizon?
I mean, it's very strange, as Jared said, because like you're always excited. It's always an exciting process to get a new coach involved, and especially for us because we don't. I'm not just saying in Cardiff. It's my personal way of doing things. I try to hire the guy that I think will be here for as long as possible, and I think, Lordo was here for 6 years. I'm hoping that this works out with Jared and that he's here for as long or longer. Like, I think the one thing that really attracted me to his CV, but also what he talked about, was he mentioned that like he's he wants to come over, he wants to make a life here, and he wants to be here for a long time. He didn't say, I want to be here for a year and then maybe move on to Germany or this and that. And I think if everyone's going to be doing searches on his background and see where he coached, and he's his coaching is quite extensive in North America, and we love that appeal. We love that he's done a lot of recruiting himself. Experiencing the East Coast League and the American League will be a huge benefit for us. But sometimes it's nice, just like players get to a certain point and they want to move over to Europe and get back to really what, like when they make the move over here, the one thing that's always attractive about our league is, look, you're not going to get traded. You're not going to get called up or sent down. You're here with probably the same guys you start with, and you're here to win. And it's been a long time probably since, for you as a coach, that you're with one group of guys, and it's like, okay, we're in this together. We're going to try to win, and then you're going to tweak the lineup every year. And I think for Jared, like it's an attractive opportunity to come in here when before COVID and we had 5 or 6 guys leave, but most of those guys will be back. But to have the core of a very successful organization right there, and adding a few players, he's not coming in and having to find 18 new guys. He's probably going to be finding between 6 and 10 guys, and putting his own stamp on things. But yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about having Jared Skalde as our head coach. I like him. I wish the season was starting now, because I think our fans are going to love him. I think I'm not just saying this because he's on the call, but this isn't. I don't hire a guy to be here for a year or two. I hire a guy to be here for a long, long time, and I hope he is.
Well, look, let's talk a little bit about Jared Skalde. In the past, 575 AHL games played, 115 appearances in the National Hockey League. You've played in the Asia League, you've played in Slovenia, you've played in Sweden, you've played in Switzerland. So no stranger to parts of Europe. I mean, being a guy that played in that many different leagues and has seen the world, tell us about the type of player you were, the roles you did, and maybe how you communicate to players. Because, I mean, I remember you, I think it was Trevor Linden. I remember you fighting Trevor Linden at the old Montreal Forum. I saw that. And so you had a lot of goals in junior when you were a Memorial Cup champion with Oshawa. So you played many roles. Talk about how you bring that to the coaching and how you deal with your players.
Well, you talk about different roles I had. Coming in, I was a 26th overall pick in the draft. So, I came in as a prospect and a guy that went to World Junior camps and all that, skilled player, skated very well. You get your opportunity, and I was fortunate to go to New Jersey Devils and learn under them and be under Lou Lamoriello for all those years. You learn so much. And then once you get on the move a little bit, it goes quick. I always thought I didn't get a great opportunity in New Jersey, and it was other people's fault type thing. I just wasn't getting a chance. And then I went to an expansion draft to Anaheim. You realize once you leave your nest, it really, because those people cared about you. They drafted you, their jobs are on the line. And I realized quickly at like 22, once you leave, now you can start getting on the move. And that's where I found I kind of went from there and did some good things in Anaheim, and then went to Las Vegas. And it wasn't until about 25, 26 when I got to St. John, and a coach really took some time with me and said, if you don't change your game, you'll be out of here by the time you're 26, 27. You need to learn to defend. And so I changed my game in St. John's. Then I started getting called up. I could go play on the fourth line. I could check. I could kill penalties. And so that's why I got some games later on in my, 27, 28, 29 type years, because I could play different roles. And then as you get into your 30s, you become that veteran guy for the minor league team, in which I enjoyed. I loved being in Salt Lake City. I was in Orlando, Chicago, with some great young guys I got to play with, and then made that decision to head overseas. But you bring up the Trevor Linden story. I always felt when I was up in the NHL that I was just one phone call away from getting sent back down. And the side story to that, because that's out of character for me, that is not in my nature to want to challenge Trevor Linden to a fight at the Bell Center. So we played in Montreal. We're down 2-0 after the first period. Kurt Fraser comes in. I'm with the Atlanta Thrashers, and just starts screaming at the centerman, "You guys haven't won a draw all night. That Trevor Linden won every face-off. Someone needs to get in his face." And I'm like, okay, well, who's it going to be, And so we start the second period. They score. My line goes out there, and it's Trevor Linden. And there on a platter is an opportunity for me to do something to show how badly I want to stay here. I line up. I do a little circle. I take a deep breath. And I kind of pitchfork him and come over with an elbow, and he gets scrappy, and the gloves come off. He throws a couple. End of it. Nobody gets hurt. I got 5 minutes for fighting. Kurt Fraser loves me. And I honestly thought that was my moment where they can't send me down. That I am going to be in the National Hockey League for the rest of this year. And sure enough, a week later, I got sent back down to the minors. But that was that. For a moment, I was like, I've arrived. This is it. To do something like that and not get hurt was the biggest part. But you might be the only person that remembers that. I haven't told the story to that I fought Trevor Linden. That's great.
I mentioned it to Todd off camera earlier. I go, yeah, no, I remember this fight with Linden. I mean, so it was. I knew that we'd have to touch on that. I mean, we said earlier, a Memorial Cup champion with the Oshawa Generals. You won an IHL championship with Orlando. You won a Slovenian championship in 2008. So championships certainly a part of the DNA, and you know that, of course, I'm sure Todd has told you, and I'm sure Todd told your best friend when he called him, championships are sort of part of it. I mean, talk about communication again as a coach, because you've been that assistant coach, you've been the developmental coach in Pittsburgh. It's sort of those, when you've been there and done it, is it easier to get a player to buy in, especially when you're a new coach on this side of the pond?
I think so. I think the more communication, the better. I mean, and some guys obviously require a lot more communication than others, but I think being honest with them and telling them how you feel, and as much communication as possible, whether it's a group of your leaders, making sure that we have those honest conversations together, or as a group, of course, we're going to meet, but then the individuals, especially guys coming over for the first time, any kind of help they require, I think is important, and really get an idea of where the guys are at. So I think the communication with the leadership is very, very important. And we talk now where, in our day, we try to avoid going to coaches' offices.
It's a good point indeed. But you played under some pretty incredible coaches, didn't you? I mean, I think Herb Brooks, Ken Hitchcock, if I'm correct, maybe Bill Barber. So, and you mentioned your coach in Atlanta. I mean, you've had some real good role models.
Yeah, it's interesting. I really wish, like Herb Brooks at the time, being 20 years old, and that movie is great. I wish I could have appreciated him a little bit. He really did see the game differently at that time, and how we're playing the game today has a lot to do with Herb Brooks. And when you're 20 going through it, you don't quite see it, but you knew it's different. And it wasn't until I got older that I got to really appreciate what Herb Brooks brought to the game and how his mind worked and how he wanted to change how we played the game. And it did. It's a better sport today because of a lot of things that Herb brought. And along the way, like having guys like Todd and I talked about it too with Daryl Sutter. Daryl's completely old school, hard as they get, but he had to change himself when he got to LA a little bit. You're dealing with Anze Kopitar and some guys, there's some superstars. So Daryl had to change. I got him in San Jose where it was hard. I love playing for him. Just you knew exactly what you had to do, but all these guys evolve, and that's why they're able to continue to coach a lot of them. You look at Lindy Ruff, still in the league, just got hired as New Jersey's coach. So there's a lot of it goes to communication and changing your style, and you stay true to your core values, but there is some adjustments you have to make as you grow with these players.
Todd, we know the search was extensive, and maybe you'll have to get some of Coach Skalde's cousins that you can call and sort of get references for over the coming months. But Todd, just when you're looking towards the future of the Cardiff Devils, since you guys took over as the new ownership group there's been a lot of successes, and certainly your fan base has grown, and they expect those results. So just talk a little bit about some of the most things that stood out during this process.
Well, I mean, the fact that Jared has experience, he had experience in the East Coast League as director of hockey / head coach, it was important because recruitment is so big. And we talked a lot throughout this process about recruitment and his, his experience with it and stuff. And that was a huge factor. The guys that we narrowed it down to, the last 3 or 4 guys, recruitment was such a big thing with it. And then the other big thing was the video presentation, like seeing how a coach will communicate with the team. Jared walked us through his normal week, how he sees the weeks going with him in charge. And the big thing for me is I know everyone thinks I'm a control freak, but I think it's more I'm a control freak on the business side of things. With the hockey side of things, anyone that will talk to Andrew Lord and whether Jared has already or will eventually, in detail about working with me, I'm really removed from the hockey side of things. I get a lot more credit for the hockey side of things than I probably deserve. And I think I've learned over the years. I think this will be my 14th year of running teams in the UK, and I think my first few years, I was more involved, and over the years I've been less and less and less involved. And the last couple of years in Cardiff, have been the least involved I've been. But I think part of that is because Andrew Lord, I trusted him, and that was the thing that I wanted with the new coach, with Jared especially. Like, I just saw this guy that I felt like I don't need to be in the locker room ever. I don't need to make sure that he's in control of the team, and if the guys respect him, and if he's a good communicator, if he's picking up on things, because he has experience doing that. If you should talk to 5 or 6 people, I probably talked to 15 people about him and people he worked with and worked for, and they all came back with very similar references on him. And the one person that I spoke to, she explained, she just said, you don't have to worry about him. You don't have to worry that he's doing his job and that he, and she described him as him liking the grind, loving the grind, actually. And I like hearing that, because it's a grind. So being a hockey coach is a grind at this level. You're not, you play on a Saturday night in Manchester or Sheffield, and you got a 4-hour bus ride back, and you want to put your head down and catch some Z's, but you got to break down a game tape, and it's 3 or 4 hours of work. And I like the fact that I know that he's done it in the past, and he kind of knows what he's getting into. And for me, I'm hiring the person that I'm probably going to spend the most time with in hockey. I'm going to see him every day. I'm going to talk to him for hours every week. I need to know that we'll click and we'll get along. And that was important. And that's one thing that Steve and Brian, all the owners, actually talked about. They said, you have to make sure that you're going to click with this guy. Because me and Lordo we had a great relationship, and everyone knew that. And that the strength of our organization was built on that, I think. And the players knew it, and fans knew it. And I think, that's the relationship I plan on having with Jared. And we talk about the part of this process. We had the owners, interview a few of the last guys. We also had a couple of the players to make sure that they felt that we were hiring the right guy. We had Joey Martin and Joey Haddad both interviewed Jared and another person. And I think, I came back on the call after an hour, and the 3 of them were laughing about I think Jared coached against both of them in the East Coast League at some point, and after the call, they both just said the same thing. They said, that's our guy, that's our coach. I can see him in the locker room. I can see him commanding the respect of the team, and that's so important.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, because I believe I'd be right in saying that you wore the C and the A 7, 8, 9 times throughout your career as a player, Jared. So when you're wearing the C or the A like that, and then you're talking to Captain Joey Martin, it's important that you can have those conversations and that the players know your approach. Well, you talked about communication earlier on, but when you look at a coach who's been a captain or an alternate captain that many times in his career, certainly you kind of know what the players need and when they need their buttons pushed or when you need them to maybe lay off them a little bit. So it's interesting. I'd love to get your thoughts on what you thought of Joey Martin and Joey Dad. I mean, two of the finest in the EIHL.
Yeah, I was really impressed. Obviously, I knew him as players very well and and heard great things about him. I have some people from Wheeling that coached him there and stuff. So, I'm excited. I know that with the times things have changed a little bit, but we're excited to get Joey back and be a part with those guys. And that was the thing when we talked was I always felt as a captain is when you can empower your guys, like I want them to take responsibility. Like they have to share in the responsibility, and we're all going to share in the responsibility. But when you can empower your older guys, and I thought it was great for Todd to set up a call with us, because that's a huge thing, a huge responsibility for these guys to be part of this process also. So really enjoyed the call and going to really enjoy working with those guys.
Well, I think one thing that other professional organizations and other professional leagues are going to certainly have to look at now is the interview process. We're going to have to call best friends. We're going to have to call grandparents. We're going to have to call fourth grade teachers. And I think it's incredible to hear the behind the scenes, the process. So kudos to Todd and the ownership group for allowing us to discuss the actual process. Because let's be honest, sometimes those are the things that are kept secret amongst organizations. Before we let you go, I know you have lots of other interviews lined up. I know you have lots going on, Coach Skalde. Just maybe a message to the Cardiff Devils faithful and to EIHL fans in all 10 cities, because it is scary times or anxious times for some people, but it's certainly hopefully better days ahead.
Well, yeah, just everybody be safe and follow what we're told to follow, and wash your hands, wear a mask, and be safe. Excited to get over there and be part of this league and be part of the Cardiff Devils family, and get to meet these great fans that are supporting hockey throughout the UK.
Well, it's been an absolute honor to catch up with you. I can't wait till I'm actually be able to be ringside, and we'll let Todd get the Tim Hortons from around the corner there in Cardiff Bay, and we'll
Perfect.
catch up properly. And I can't wait to be behind the microphone to call one of your games. So thanks for taking the time to join us. And Todd, maybe a last message from you as well to your fans about your new coach.
I think it's important to realize that this is the first step towards showing how committed we are to the 2021-22 season. We're excited. I think I hope our fans buy into it as well. I think they'll realize that we never lost hope and we never really paused anything. We've been working on behind the scenes all off season to find the right guy for this organization. I think when Coach Skalde eventually gets behind the bench, I think the fans will be there and hopefully another sold out show at the arena for his debut.
Thanks, fellas. Stay safe and hope to see you at Ice Arena Wales sooner rather than later.
Thanks a lot, Aaron.
Thanks, Murph.